Best watch for picking up chicks. A lot of really good watches have just been destroyed by that.
On the case back, it's dumb.
I'm gonna say one that feels obvious to me. I don't want to take your answer, but by a mile, it's Tudor.
And they're like, oh, let's put that on the watch. And then all of a sudden it becomes like heritagey and vintagey. No, it's not.
The design team made this balanced, symmetrical thing, and then just had to stab it in the heart for the name of functionality. Welcome to Plus or Minus, the horological debate show about the best and worst of the watch world. Y'all know me, I'm Thomas Hendricks, the host of the Chrono24 YouTube channel.
You all know me as well. I'm Balazs Ferenczi, co-host of Fratello on Air.
We have 9 cards in front of us. Balazs, you want to start us off?
Of course. Worst complication.
I'm gonna make some enemies with this, but date windows are the worst. I think there's a lot of really good watches that have just been destroyed by that. You look at the Nautilus, you look at the Royal Oak, just to name a few, some Rolex watches as well. I feel like the design team made this balanced, symmetrical thing, and then just had to stab it in the heart for the name of functionality.
Yeah, I can see that. There's also the 4 o'clock date window, which I don't quite like.
See, sometimes it works, like Longa 1, couldn't imagine without it. Even like the Universal Genève pole router, they made it a trapezoid to kind of fit into the watch.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you make a beautiful thing and then you just smack on this thing.
Yeah, I never got that as well. People say, you know, you need to have a date. I don't think you need to have a date. You can have a date on your phone. You can have a date on your computer. Yeah.
What's your answer? What's the worst?
Power reserve on the back of the watch. I prefer it on the dial. On the case back, it's dumb. Why would you have the power reserve on the case back? Oh, how much, power do I have? Let me take that off. It's useless. I think it's useless. So power reserve on the case back.
All right.
You go.
Let's hit it. Best Rolex model.
The GMT 1675.
Oh, you go reference number 2,
There you
huh?
go. GMT 1675.
Why?
Because it's my very first Rolex, and that's the one that I've always wanted to get. And I think it's just a great size. I love the looks, I love the colors, I love the blue, I love the red. I think it has a cool complication, going back to complications. I think it's a classy watch. Magnum PI, hello. You have the shorts, I have the watch. Nobody has the mustache, or none of us at least. Yeah, I think it's just the quintessential Rolex.
Okay. I would go, I've always been an Explorer guy.
Yeah.
And I kind of get 2 answers in one with this, because if you go on to the Rolex website, they have Explorer 1 and 2 in the same section. The Explorer 1, if I had to get a Rolex, would probably be where I would start at least. And then as far as like rail watches go, the 1655, call it Explorer 2, would be my number 1.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like vintage Explorers. I've never had one. I've held them and I've tried them on, and I think they're really cool. 10 was a 1016, I think. That's quite nice, but it's a bit small for me. That's why I go with the GMT, because it's 40, it's the right size. But the Explorers are nice. And I like the Explorer 2. Actually I like the Explorer 2 better, the older ones.
Yeah, you kind of get a GMT in there as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go. Maybe that's why. I'm next.
Hit it.
There you go. Best micro brand.
I would go, I tried on one of yours the other day.
No, I wanted to say that. Say it.
Okay, fine. Well, now you have time to think of a second.
Yeah,
answer.
I have to think of another one. Yeah.
MING is the best micro brand in my opinion, because I feel like for a lot of brands starting out now, it's easy to take kind of an existing design language and change it by 2% and add your own logo on there. MING has made their own from scratch. And now that the brand is developing, adding more complications, GMTs, world timers, moon phases, chronographs, they all look like the MING version of that.
Yeah.
So it's a very defined design language, but also flexible enough to change from series to series and add complications in there. And they're leveling up as well. I think their newest pieces are like around 20,000 or so.
Yes.
But yeah, as far as design language goes, I think they really killed it out of the gate. And yeah, I'm saving up for one right now.
Yeah, it is also pretty cool because you can get a MING for 2,000 and you can get one for 20,000, which I think is a great opportunity for everybody to get into the same brand, right? If you have 2, 3, 4 grand, you can get a very nice one, a very, very nice one. But if you want the complication, as you said, if you want to spend more money, you can still get something and you get a lot of watch for your money. The thing is, like, you got all these re-edition brands, right? Like Nevada, for example, Excelsior Park. Technically, they're not micro brands because they're, like a resurrected brand. So I'm not going to go with them, even though I like them. I'm going to go with Baltic. I quite like Baltic. I like what they're doing. The first models came out, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I can't remember. I thought, yeah, okay, it's nothing special. But they added a few very nice models to their collection. It's not too wide, but it's...
Yeah, they got dress watches, chronographs,
yeah, they have
GMTs, divers.
Right, exactly. So they have the whole lineup. I like the design. I mean, it's very difficult to say what's special about a dive watch, right? It has a bezel, yes. It has water resistance, yes. But still, I think it's a cool brand.
I think they're going up the middle, but they're doing it well,
Yeah.
I would say.
Maybe Baltic is not a micro brand anymore. I'm not sure. But it started out, let's say, as a micro brand, and I quite like them. So I'd go with Baltic.
Sick. All right, well, let me ask you something.
Yes.
Best watch for picking up chicks?
Probably something flashy, like an AP or gold Rolex or something.
Yeah?
Oh, no, wait. Any Richard Mille.
Why?
Because I know you love it.
Why would you say that? And what kind of women are you picking up?
Well, the women I pick up, they don't really care about watches, and that's a good thing. Well, if you want to pick up women who care about watches, it has to be either very tasteful, right? Like a Vacheron or a Breguet or like a vintage, something nice vintage, whatever. Or if you go with those people who care about I wouldn't say the monetary value, but definitely the brand name, then you need like an RM or you need like maybe a Patek, but I don't think they know Patek as much as they know Rolex or Richard Mille. The big, ugly, chunky
You
Richard
want to
Mille.
show that you have money.
Yes. So yeah, tasteful watch versus loud watch.
Okay. I would go probably somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I would go like 70s Piaget maybe.
Yeah. But it's more tasteful than loud.
Yeah, I would say, but I'm thinking like stone dial kind of thing.
That's loud.
So like but like a white metal, you know,
That's
so you have that kind of tension in there.
Okay, I
It's
see you.
thin, so therefore you look a little bit more buff.
Ooh.
And it's off the beaten path. You know, I think the safe answer would be like a Rolex Datejust or something. It's recognizable, it shows success and dependability, which you also want to say about yourself, but that's a little boring. And I want to be more the air of that guy that just stepped off a boat and he's got an accent and you're not really sure where it's from, but you kind of want to find out.
I'm the guy who has an accent, not you. But listen, what if you wear like
I have an accent to somebody.
Well, true. There you go. But what if you wear like the cheapest $15 Casio, the F91W, just for the fun of it?
See, in Brooklyn where I live, that would kill.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I think you want to show up to impress. Not overly
you?
so. Yeah, why not?
Who are you dating?
No one. I'm very single. But when I do, I have like
The phone number
my
again.
thin little gold, you know,
Yeah.
yellow gold AP that has some guilloche and some Breguet numerals. So when you take a closer look, they're like, oh, that's kind of
Like a
interesting.
conversation starter or something.
Yeah.
I would say go RM. I wouldn't go RM.
Yeah,
but
we're
I
both
would-
single. What do we know?
I'm the next one.
Do it.
Oh, come on. Best Cartier model.
Best Cartier model. I've always been a Santos guy. The ones as of late, I'm not really a fan of because I think it's all about, with so few elements, I think it's all about proportions. And the case is just a little bit too wide for the bracelet. I like more of the 80s, 90s ones where it's more of a straighter line, I would say. My all-time Santos Royale is the 2319. It was a special edition in 2002 for SIHH. And it's basically like a Rolex Explorer, but in Cartier form. So it's got luminescent numerals, it's got a second hand, it's got some water resistance on there. 29 millimeters, but wears probably more like a 36, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, with Cartier, there's like a lot out there, but for like everyday kind of stuff, and as far as like approachably priced stuff, not like crash level,
Yeah.
I would go with Santos.
Why not tank?
I feel like, and I've gone down this road before, and this is how I ended up with my little dressy AP kind of thing, is that I was shopping for tanks, but they're kind of overpriced for what they are, and a lot of it comes down to brand name and recognition and famous people
AP was
wearing
cheap?
it. It was a lot cheaper.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Was
than
it?
the Cartier tank. Yeah, by thousands of dollars.
Okay. Interesting.
Solid gold,
That's a nice watch. though.
movement, everything, guilloche dial. And so that's why in terms of tanks, I mean like a Centre, for example, like there's a lot of tanks that you kind of splinter off that I would kill for. But as far as like, down the middle tank, I feel like, and for the money, there's just a lot better options out there. And then when you go to watch meetups or something like that, it's not just another tank, it's something cool. So you kind of take that idea and go one step beyond.
Yeah, I get you a Cartier once, but it's going to be a Santos XL. And then you have to wear it because it's a gift from me.
Okay, fine.
No?
Fine.
Okay.
Only when I hang out with you and then I'll have another watch in my pocket.
In the safe. For me, it's the Ballon Bleu.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I'm not the Cartier type of guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm really not.
And I don't like that watch, personally.
It's
I don't
a-
like a round Cartier, but that's
It's it's not. I mean, the Cartier DNA is like square, right? But that's the reason I like the Ballon Bleu, because I think it looks very different. But if you take someone who's never seen or never, knew anything about watches, and then you show them the history of watches and models and APs and whatever and Pateks and Cartiers, and then you show them the Ballon Bleu without the logo, they would still say it's a Cartier because that's still
Yes.
recognizable, even if it's a very, very, very different watch in terms of design. And I've never tried it on, mind you. So maybe if I put it on, I'm like, nah, this is not for me. But I don't see myself wearing a Santos either, or a Tank. And then what's out there? Like, Panther or American or one of those things. But
Yeah, get creative, like an asymmetric or something like that.
with
you
the
know, or-
Pasha. Pasha is funny.
I could do a Pasha with a grill. I would go, I
for
would
sure.
go all the way. Yeah.
Absolutely, and with the chain and everything.
Yeah.
That I could do.
Okay.
That could be also like a cool dating watch.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love
There
your
we go.
watch. What is that? Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe not too much laying on the first date, but
If you're lucky.
okay, next question. Mr. Ferenczi, best brand logo.
Ooh. Okay, it's not a brand logo, but it's used by a brand. It's the Patek.
Calatrava Cross? Or-
Calatrava Cross, yeah, I like it. I like it. But it's not Patek, right? It's technically it's not from Patek.
They use it as their logo.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon didn't invent the little smiley face, you know?
Yeah, and then Vacheron didn't invent the Maltese cross. Omega didn't invent the last alphabet. Of the
didn't invent the
Greek letter
What?
alphabet. Yeah. I would go with the Maltese cross.
Or the Calatrava Cross.
I mean, sorry, the Calatrava cross, not the Maltese
Okay,
cross.
well, I'll take the other one. I'll say Maltese Cross.
There you go.
And the reason why is when I'm shopping around and I'm looking for tank alternatives, let's say, Vacheron has a lot of like very simple, affordably priced dress watches, but then it's, with just baton hands, baton hour markers, but then it's just bam, Maltese Cross in the middle. It's such a statement. And I feel like it really amplifies the watch more than just text would.
Yeah. You think about the rest, Zenith, it's a star. Mwah.
Yeah, which is not my favorite.
Awesome. Hublot and H. Wow, it's so original, isn't it?
There are a lot of bad ones out there.
Yeah, more bad ones than good ones. Or it just comes from like 200 years ago when it was just like, oh, we need something. So last letter of the alphabet, Omega, great.
Which I think is why classical symbols work so well. Because both the crosses are hundreds of years old, closer to 1,000, and the Omega is, thousands upon thousands. I'm thinking of worst brand logo now, but we'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, I have a few. Okay. Oh,
Please.
yes. Oh, worst handset.
Worst handset. I'm going to say one that feels obvious to me. I don't want to take your answer, but by a mile, it's Tudor.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
The Snowflake?
Yeah.
Okay.
I get it. It's legible when you're underwater and stuff like that, but really how often are people doing that sort of thing?
Wait. Worst handset in terms of brands using it or shapes?
Whatever you hate. Whatever,
Okay.
whatever gets you a little worked up.
Oh, God. Okay.
You got a second. I got some things to say about Tudor. Mm-hmm. They come from the Rolex lineage, but have to be a little bit different. And it looks like you took the Mercedes logo and used like an 1980s like 8-bit kind of graphic. You zoomed out and just kind of like that blurry into kind of like a snowflake shape. And you have a design team, you have all this heritage. Could you do anything else than like a stop sign, basically? There's been plenty of tool watches that have done it before and done it better. I like that they took a risk and did a shape on it.
Yeah.
But it's very blocky. Again, it feels like very kind of like Donkey Kong to me, if that makes sense.
Okay, I can see that. I'm not gonna pick a brand. I'm gonna pick a shape.
Yeah,
and
go
it's,
for it.
And it's the sword hands. I don't like sword hands too much
Why?
because they make every watch. I mean, on new watches, right? They make them look super, not vintage, but super outdated. And I think for a lot of the times, designers just use sword hands, and they're like, "Oh, let's put that on the watch," and then all of a sudden it becomes like heritagey and vintagey. No, it's not. Like sword hands on a vintage watch, and I have watches with sword hands. You saw them. They look super nice, but we're talking 1940s, maybe early 50s.
Yeah, well, that fits.
That fits, but then when they use it on new watches, because it's a heritage model or just the heritage model line, I look at them and I'm like, you picked a case from the 2000s, you picked the handset from the 40s. It's just like a chop shop kind of put together watch, and I don't quite like that. sword hands. And that's also, there's a lot of real estate on the hand, right? There's a little bit of frame, there's like a lot of lume in the middle, kind of also blocking out the view. I don't like sword hands.
Yeah, it can feel like a stock part sometimes.
Yeah, vintage, go for it. New, I don't want to see it in any watch. But I want to see that. I mean, you will see it and tell me.
Best chronograph.
I'll make a Speedmaster.
Yeah.
And basically any model, I'm very happy with the late 60s model, like a 321 and an early 861. So just around the time of the moon landing, 68, 69, 70, something like that. I like the size, I like the shape, I like the movement. I think it's pretty indestructible, 861, or even the 321, and then the 1861 and so on, the new ones. I like the overall design. I really don't care about the moon landing and stuff. It's a cool thing, yes, and it's an interesting little story to tell, but I'm not really into Speedmasters or into Omega because of the moon landing.
Yeah, that wasn't like part of your childhood.
No, absolutely not, absolutely not, no. And I always, when I see people wearing a Speedmaster in the wild, I'm like, I really want to go up to you and ask you, why did you pick that watch? Because now it's not cheap, right? For that much money, you can buy a Saab or whatever, or any of or a Tudor, any of the popular models.
I mean, Tudor's really eating away at that market
Exactly.
share.
So why did you pick this watch over that watch? I'm really curious. As an average Joe.
And there's a lot of different angles you can come at it from.
Absolutely. So for me, it's the Speedmaster, professional.
I would go, okay, so in the order of chronographs, as far as like popularity, or like reverence, let's say, as far as mainstream stuff, I would say it's Daytona, then Speedmaster, and then like a distant third is probably the El Primero.
Yeah.
I've always been an El Primero guy. I kind of fell in love with it when I first got into watches.
Nice.
Especially the older, more like, not tonneau shaped ones, but just like more squared off kind of cases.
With the leather bracelet?
Yeah,
Nice, yeah.
Or the ladder bracelet.
Yeah.
Would be, the way that I would go. It's arguably the first automatic chronograph, and we had perpetual calendars before that, so that is, a feat in and of itself.
Yeah.
And just the vintage models, the colors on the subdials have always like really spoken to me.
Yeah.
At the more affordable level, it's one of those things you see a brand where they come up with a bunch of different colorways, and they're like, all right, these ones are kind of ugly, they're going to be a little bit cheaper, and these ones are prettier, they're going to be a little bit more expensive. So as far as my price range goes, I'm not that tempted by them.
Moonswatch.
I know. It's too big. It's too big for me.
It is. It's 42. Yeah.
But I mean, you look at like the Shadow, like the blacked out titanium one. Killer watch, incredibly comfortable, great movement, automatic, so you don't really have, it's just a get up and go kind of watch as well. So again, best chronograph of all time, probably not, but I think it deserves more credit.
Now the El Primero is a legend. It's up there, especially the vintage ones. And that's a cool movement. They still do it. They still can't do it perfectly, unfortunately. There's still a lot of issues with the El Primeros, as far as I've heard.
Well, because they haven't really changed it in
well,
like
right, that's the thing,
60
right?
years.
But that's what you could say, like with the Speedmaster, they went to 321 and 861, 1861, 3861. Now they do the 321 again. Why did you move away from the 321 to the 861 if everything was fine with it? And now why are you doing it? But it's a different story because the new 321 it's kind of a novelty piece, right? It's not a regular production model. But with the El Primero, they had the same issue with the watches back in the 60s that they have today. Like, guys, you've been doing the last 40, 50, 60 years. But it's still, regardless, it's still a beautiful movement. And it is an iconic, historically very, very important movement in the watch industry. And I would say it's still the first one.
Yeah.
I don't care about
Only request is that like dumb little star on the rotor. That
Oh,
looks
yeah,
like
no.
a tattoo, in the
yeah.
90s. Yeah,
That's
get
bad
rid of
logo, you see? Star.
It's bad
a bad logo.
It's a bad logo. Not the worst, but it's not great.
It's just basic.
But it's on the back of the watch, so it's not.
Like a power reserve. There you have
It all
it.
comes back.
No more questions.
This has been Plus or Minus, the Horological Debate Show about the best and worst of the watch industry. This is Balazs Ferenczi. I'm Thomas Hendricks. We'll see you next time.